Hi, it's Martin again with just this week's update on what's happening in the world. It's been another week dominated by government help and in particular the self-employed income support scheme. So if you're self-employed, you've probably realised now that to claim, you go through the eligibility check, you get a date and time to claim, assuming you log in after that date and time and you have a government gateway ID, your NI number, your UTR, and some bank details, you pretty much get some money. It's proven in the main to be very straightforward. Most people have no issues at all. What it's less clear on is the people who are marked down as not being eligible. It doesn't really give very good reasons as to why. And in fact, one of the reasons that it throws up as a standard offering is that perhaps your tax returns haven't been submitted. So of course we've had some people on the phone to us pretty irate asking why we haven't submitted their tax returns, when in fact we have. So it's worth bearing in mind that where you're told you're not eligible, it doesn't actually tell you the reason why. It offers suggestions that might be appropriate. That said, if you're a client, give us a call. If you're not a client, give us a call. We might be able to help you anyway, figure out what's going on there. A couple of things that have came up with clients during the claim process are things like rental income is not self-employment. We had someone pretty disappointed that they just failed to qualify, and part of the reason was they had rental income. In their own mind, the rental income plus the partnership income they had was well over 50% when looked at with the third type of income, which was a pension. However, self-employed income does not cover rental income. There's a bit of an irony there because some of you may remember that HMRC issued Class 2 national insurance charges on landlords a few years back. In other words, they started to try to treat landlords as self-employed. Of course, the problem with that is they weren't prepared to give landlords any of the benefits of being self-employed. Things like business asset reliefs on capital gains, that type of thing. So I think they've kind of did a bit of a U-turn. Also, as a group of people, landlords rejected this outright because they didn't want to pay 8 or 9% national insurance on their rental profits. So this is another example of a group of people who've argued for years that maybe they should be self-employed, rejected it when it nearly happened for national insurance purposes, but then possibly now wish it had been treated as self-employment. There's not much you can do at the moment though. The fact is at the moment the self-employed income support scheme does not cover rental income. As an added little quirk on that one, there are still a lot of people out there who buy and sell properties and flip properties and try to report those as capital gains when in fact it is normally trading income based on a review of the facts. So again, you've possibly got people out there who've reported capital gains that should have been self-employment, which ironically would have got them a grant had they reported it correctly. But again, there's nothing you can do now. You can't go back to the revenue and say, I want some money because I did something wrong. You know, that's just what it is. And if anything, this self-employed income support scheme is now starting to really throw up some interesting debate online. I saw one person complain that they were only offered £400, which is a paltry sum. It's an offence. Working that through logically, that means they've been declaring £2,000 a year self-employment. It's the only way you'd get the £400 offer. Now, if what they're saying is they can't live on that, I think they'll be in a little bit of difficulty justifying to HMRC how they've managed to live on a percentage of that in the past. So yeah, it's throwing out some interesting things. Sticking with government support and looking at things like C-bills, bounce back and the furlough scheme itself. And what's quite interesting at the moment is the question about who is going to police the proper use of these things. There are a lot of conditions on bounce back and C-bills in particular, but also on the furlough scheme. To a lesser degree, there's conditions on the self-employed income support scheme as well. You've got to have been in business at a certain time and expect to be in business at a certain time. But one question has been answered to some degree on the policing side, you know, who is going to police these things. And there was a story earlier in the week to say that almost 800 people had reported their employer for improper use of the furlough scheme. So there's always the snitch line. Doesn't matter how clever you think you are, you're always either taking advantage of someone or of something, and there'll always normally be someone who doesn't like that you've done it and will gladly report you. So that's been an interesting development as well. I'm sure that number will grow even more, not least because in the early days of the furlough we heard of people being told they were going on furlough, but expected them to work full time as well on 80% grant funded government pay, which of course is highly illegal. That's completely at odds with the scheme. Final point for this week is an announcement from Oxford University to say that next year all of their courses will be completely online. Now you might not really care about that unless you run a business in a university town. Newcastle, for instance, has, the numbers I can't remember now, 30 to 40,000 students, of which a fair portion of them come from outside the area. A healthy portion of them stay in privately owned student accommodation owned by landlords who might not now have tenants for a complete term, or a year even, not just a term. And then of course you've got the spin-off, you've got the money they normally leave. If you work on the basis the average student leaves a hell of a lot of debt, tied to them when they leave university. It isn't all student fees. A lot of that goes on local businesses, buying books and supplies for their courses, as well as all the local pubs, clubs, cafes, restaurants, and other local businesses that are propped up by this group of travelling people. Now, interestingly, if all universities go down that road, I think we'll see some interesting changes in the social dynamics of those university towns. It would be great to hear your thoughts on that, because it could get interesting. Not least, you'll have people trying to repurpose student properties, which may or may not require planning, or may in fact result in them losing their planning permission to house multiple people in it. So really interested to see what you think could happen on that one. As always, if you've got any questions or there's anything topical that you think we should be covering, just let me know. Thank you.